looking at the warm-up, solve the inequality. What should we do first? Move over one of the x's. Should we move over the 9? Or should we move over the 6?
6.
The 6. Good. Should we add it or subtract it? Subtract it. Good. Let's subtract 6 on both sides. So minus 6x minus 6x. 9 minus 6 is 3. So we have 3x and then less than 4. And then what should be the last step? Divide by 3. Good. We divide by 3. 4 divided by 3 gives us 1.33. Is it okay to get a decimal? Yes, it's okay to get a decimal. All right, box in your answer, and then we're done. So just a reminder, like I said yesterday, we'll be adding the equations where we're solving either with an equal sign or the inequality sign to all the notes to kind of help spiral that in for that retest, okay? All right, so we're continuing on. Does everyone have their notes? All right, so today we're looking at the difference between, we're going to look at the discrete, domain, and range. All right, looking at discrete and continuous. So when we're looking at discrete, you're going to be looking at a graph that is counted, that can be counted. You're going to be looking at these dots that can be counted. And the dots are not connected. They're going to be disconnected. So think of that word, discrete and disconnect. They both start with that beginning piece, D-I-S, right? Disconnect, discrete. All right, when we're looking at continuous, on continuous, these are going to be measured. These are going to be the graphs that are either going straight, they're in a curve, they're going as a U. These are going to be measured. And these are connected. Connected. Again, starting with that same piece, C-O-N and C-O-N. All right, when we look at domain, does anyone remember what domain values look at? What are we looking at when we're looking at domain? All right, we're going to be looking at the x values, only at the x values. Only at the x values. So it says when you're looking at it, you're going to scan your pencil from left to right. What axis goes left to right? The x-axis. Good. So it's going to be along the x-axis. All right, for the range, you're going to be looking at the y values. You're going to scan your pencil from, where do you think? Up to down, up and down. And which axis is that? That is the y-axis. Good. All right, so let's go on to the next piece. It says we write the domain and range of discrete and the data in this format. So if you notice, they are going to be just dots. Even on the graph, we're going to have just the dots here, right? You're going to have, sorry, not just the dots, sorry, just the numbers here. They're going to be scattered. They're not going to be continuous. So when we're looking at the discrete, you're always going to write the numbers from least to greatest. So they're always going to be in order from least to greatest. Even when you're looking at the domain and range, when we write it in as an inequality, you're going to go from the least or the smallest to the biggest, okay? All right, so it says determine whether each discrete relation below is a function, and then identify the domain and the range. So how did we determine it was a function yesterday? Do y'all remember what we focused on? If the x repeated or not. Good. All right, so if you have a highlighter, you're going to use your highlighter. If you don't have a highlighter, we're going to underline it. All right, so we're going to highlight the x on every single point. All right, is this example a function, yes or no? Yes, good. So we're going to write yes, that it is a function. For domain, we're just going to write these x values, the same ones we underlined or the same ones we highlighted. So for our domain, we're going to do these little brackets. Kind of looks like a little squiggly. All right, we're just going to list them. So we're going to write -2, -1, 0, and 1. If 1 happens to repeat, do not put it twice. You're just saying that there's a value at that number. So you don't have to put, for instance, if I had 2 -1s, we will not put a -1 and a -1. All right, for the range are, on my screen, at least on my screen, are the non-highlighted ones. If you underlined it, they are the non-underlined ones. All right, so let's look here. So looking at the range, what would I write for the range if they're the non-highlighted ones? 4. Do I have to put 4 4s? No, because what did I just say? If they repeat, are we going to write them out every single time? No, so it's just a 4. Okay, all right, go ahead and try the practice. All right, let's look at that first one. So we're highlighting again. If you did not pick up a highlighter on the way in, underline that first number in each pair. All right, first determine if this is a function. Is this a function? No, why not? What number repeats?
3.
The 3s. All right, we can just write it here. We can just put the 3s repeat. Just so when you're looking at your notes, you can see why we decided it was no. But we can still list the domain and the range, right? What did we say the domain was going to be? All the ones we have highlighted. Brock, if we list these from smallest to largest, what would our domain be?
2.
2, 3, 3, 4.
Okay, 2. Do I need to put 2 3s? No, just a 3 and then a 4. Good. All right, what about the range? Who wants to give me the range? I called on Brock, but then I had someone else answer. We'll go with Emily. Emily, what's our range, Emily? Smallest to largest. Good. She said -3, -2, -4, -1, and then 4. If you notice, -2 was the first one. That was not the first one she listed because she has to list them from least to greatest or smallest to largest. All right, we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to look at the graph. Again, when we're deciding it's a function, are we looking at the x's or are we looking at the y's? The x's. Good. So if you picked up the highlighter, highlight. If not, circle. All right, focus only on these numbers. Focusing only on these numbers. Should this be a function? No. What's repeating? The 3s again.
Sorry, miss, I'm having that.
All right, for our domain. Isaiah, for our domain, we're going to list these from smallest to largest. Which one is your smallest number? What do you think?
0.
Smaller than that.
-1.
-1. Good. So we have -1. What's our next number? 0. Then
2.
2.
And then 3.
And then 3. All right. For the range, Ileana, can you list me the range in order from smallest to largest? Smallest number. 0. Good. Then? Awesome. All right. Go ahead and try the practice on the right side. All right. Ileana, was this one a function? Yes or no? Yes. All right. Marilena, what was our domain? -4, -2, 1, 2, 5. All right, Isaiah, what's our range, Isaiah? The next one. The range. You had it underneath it. We already did the -4 one. You start with
Ooh,
-2. You know you have it. -2.
-2.
You just can't read your own handwriting. -2, then what else?
-1.
-1.
0.
And 3. All right. All right, let's go to the next piece. All right. All right, so how were we determining if these were functions yesterday when it comes to the graph? Good, we draw the vertical lines, right? You go through the dots, so take your time going through the dots. I'm going to go through the dot. I want to make sure I'm hitting it only once. All right, I went through all my dots. Should this be a function, yes or no? Yes, none of them hit twice. Not right now. All right, for the domain, okay, so now for the domain, remember the domains were what values, the x's or the y's? The x's. You may find it easiest when we're doing the domain, focusing on the x-axis that's here. I would look at your point, I'd bring it down and then make a point right here, or just kind of mark it, because you're going to include every point that's hitting that x-axis. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So then what we can do here is we can go ahead and list them now that we know which ones we're including, right? Because when it's listed for us, it's a little easier, but now we're having to pull this information from the graph. All right, let's look at the range. So same thing with the range. Remember, the range are the x's or the y's? The y's. Good. All right, so if you need to, let's put a little x here. Those are x's, and these are y's. All right, so I'm going to take this point, and I'm going to go to the y-axis. What value on the y-axis does it have? -1, so that's going to be our first one. And we can mark it if we need to. All right, go to the next point. I see it here, 0. Good job. And then what's the next one? Bless you. Next one is 1. So we have 1 at 1. The next one we have is 2. After that we have 3. And the last one we have is 6. So there's a jump there, right? We have 2, 3, and then 6. So 2, 3, and then we jump out to 6. All right, go ahead and try the last one on the right side. A function on this one, Fabian. Yes or no? No. What was repeating on this one? The ones. Good. The ones were repeating. All right, the ones repeat. All right, looking at the domain, again, these are the x's. Israel, what do we have for the domain?
-3.
Start with -3. Good job. Then -2, a 1, and a 4. Good. So -3, -2, a 1, and then a 4. All right, looking at the range. Emma, what do you have for the range, Emma?
-4,
Mm-hmm.
-2,
Mm-hmm.
0, 3, 5.
0, and then 3 and 5? All right, 0, and then she said 3 and 5. Good. Go ahead and look at that last page. So I read the paragraph already, right? We're talking about Samantha and some cookies here. But it's the same thing. Look, the question, though, being down here, it says determine if the data is discrete or continuous. So this is the only one where we're actually deciphering between the two. Discrete, reminder, discrete is disconnect, and continuous is connecting. Are these points discrete or continuous? Okay, so remember, discrete is just to be disconnected. That means they're not connected. And then continuous means to be connected. If this one would be discrete, they're not connected. Now, if it was a straight line, like, oh, I thought that was my pen, sorry. If it was a straight line like this, then yeah, that would be a continuous, right? Because it's continuing and it's not skipping any points. This one is disconnect, or discrete, sorry, because they're disconnected. It's not including any of these points that are in between. All right, so let's all write discrete there. So discrete. All right, for the domain, it's the same idea. For the domain, are those the x's or the y's? The x's. Okay, so what x values do I have? I have, start off with 0, 0, and then we have what? 3, what else? 6, 9, 12, and 15. All right, let's go ahead and write those out. So we said 0, 3, 6, 9, 12, and 15. All right, for the range, remember your ranges are your y's. You're going to come over here to the y-axis. So we have 1, we have 0. What's the next one? 160. Then we have 320, 480, 640, and 800. All right, so I'm going to write that out. Always from smallest to largest. So 160, 320, 480, 640, and 800.